All right. Welcome back to class. Make sure the microphone is on here. Okay, here we go. All right. Now we should be good. Okay. So, um, this video, I'm going to go over exam 2 with you for class, for your last exam for the semester, and then just some final thoughts. And then the next video is going to be one of your last lectures for this week. Okay. So your exam 2, final thoughts, is here. Your exam 2 will be available. Here's the date for it. It's right there on your PowerPoint. Right here is the date. You have 24 hours to complete the exam, and it will be due on that date right there, as you can see. There'll be 30 to 40 questions on the exam that you will have to complete. The questions will be available under the assignments tab on the link that says exam 2. Okay, so you already did exam 1, basically the same thing as exam 1, just exam 2. So it'll be everything from the midterm all the way to the exam 2. So any information that we've gone over after the midterm, after exam 1, is what is going to be on exam 2, or what can be on exam 2. So the questions will be available under that assignments tab on the link that says exam 2. A couple different ways you can do this. You can download the questions and answer them on the document, and then save that document with the answers and upload them before the deadline. Or you can download the questions and then record the number to the questions and answers on a separate document and upload your answers before the deadline. If you will, please make sure that you put the letter, please put the letter to the answer. Please put the letter to the answer and not just the answer to the question. So for example, if you think number A is capitalism, then don't just put capitalism, put A. You can put A capitalism, but don't just put capitalism, right? It's just a lot easier to grade. And honestly, it's a lot easier if you grade it that way. If you just put 1, A, 2, B, 3, C. If you want to do it that way, cool, you don't have to. Either way, whatever's comfortable with you, I'll work around it. But if you please put the letter, the multiple choice answer letter, and then the and then if you want to put the answer, you can put A capitalism or just A, but at least put the letter for me, please. You will submit your answers under the assignments tab that says exam 2 in Canvas before the deadline. You see the deadline is here. Okay, so a couple different things that you can do. We've gone over this before. We'll go over it again. Please be sure to type the correct answer next to the correct number, right? It can throw you off. If you type the answer, if number 3 is A, but you put number 3 is B, but if you put number 2 for B, and then it'll just throw everything else off. So make sure you're paying attention. That means if I have 35 questions, you should have 35 answers. If I have 35 questions and you end up having 34 answers, you know you messed up somewhere. Go back and fix it. Okay. Upload the document with your answers in Word or PDF format. I've had some students not do that. They've been uploading some stuff in other formats, and they, it's taking off points and things like that. So I'm telling you, you got to make sure you put it in the correct format. I even allow you to just put it straight into the Canvas if you want to. That's fine too. But if you do it in any other format, I may not be able to read it. I may not be able to grade it. So please, please, please do it in that format. Unfortunately, I might get one of these following responses. My device stopped working. My Wi-Fi was down. My Canvas stopped working, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Can I email it to you? No, you cannot. Please, please, please make sure that you are where you're supposed to be. Make sure you have Wi-Fi. Make sure your computer's working, and if it doesn't, then just do it early so that if there's any issues, you can fix it, right? Or have a backup, right? So, if there's any issues with your computer or anything like that, or your Wi-Fi, you can go to campus. You can use the computers on campus or something. But if you wait until the last minute to try to do it, then you'll be rushing. If you try to do this at 10 o'clock at night and campus is closed or the library's closed or something like that, then it can mess you up. So don't wait till the last minute. You have a whole 24 hours to do the exam, okay? Please prepare, make sure you are on a device where you can download and upload the exam. Make sure you are somewhere where you have Wi-Fi. Late and or email submissions will result in significant point deduction. And then after an hour, I won't let you submit it at all. So please make sure that you submit this on time. Please be sure you are somewhere where you have Wi-Fi or you're on a device where you can complete this. Okay, very, very, very important. All right, so I think I haven't had any issues like that so far in this class, but you never know. I hate for you to work so hard throughout the course and then get all the way to the end and then, ends up being something like that. Submit the exam early, complete the exam in the library. So you have a couple suggestions. You can complete the exam at the library where you have backup computers just in case, or you have a laptop. You can save it to your email, to save the exam answers to your email. You can email it to yourself. Have backups, devices, backups, all these different things so that it can help you, right? So they can help you. You can upload it to your phone if you want to, and answer them that way. If you're having trouble, make sure you save the document, restart your device. But see, if you do that at 11:30, when you try to restart your device and all of that, it may take a long time. You may run out of time. So that's why the key is to do this as early as possible. If you work in the morning, as soon as you get off work, come home, eat, and then do your exam. If you work later, get up early in the morning, eat your breakfast, and then do the exam. So you have 24 hours, which is actually better than if you were in person. If you were in person, you would just have whatever hour, 15 minutes, hour and a half, whenever we have class, but you have 24 of them. Okay, 24 of those hours. So do that. If you have any questions, feel free to email me or inbox me or see me during office hours. Now, something I don't often do, but I decided to do this semester is allow for missing assignments. So if you miss one assignment, if you miss an assignment, or even a number of assignments, I will give you the opportunity to submit one of them for partial credit. Okay, one of them for partial credit. So you should see a portal that says missing assignments. So if you did not submit an assignment this semester, this is your chance to make it up. In the portal that says missing assignment, not the original portal. So for example, if you didn't do, let's say the assignment that talked about systemic racism, and you want to do that assignment, you didn't turn it in. You can turn it in, but don't turn it into the original one. Turn it into the missing assignments portal. And then I'll grade it, and then I'll give you credit on the original one, but don't turn it into the original. You can submit one missing assignment from the semester for half credit, not more than one. And this does not count towards quizzes, exams, or the final paper. If you didn't do a quiz or an exam or the final paper, it doesn't count towards that. But it does count towards any assignments. Okay. This can help your grade. It's much better to have some points than no points at all. Trust me. Keep in mind the missing assignment should be submitted to this portal, not the original one. This is the only way you will receive credit. So again, send it to this portal, the one that says missing assignment, not the original one. The deadline to do this is right here on your PowerPoint. Okay, so pay attention to that. Any assignment submitted after that date will not be graded. So I want to say thank you. Let me know if you have any questions about that. If I want to say thank you for allowing me to be your instructor this semester. I hope you learned a lot. I've enjoyed the conversations that I've had with some of the students in office hours. I definitely encourage you to do evaluations. If you enjoyed the course, please let me know. Leave a comment. I hope that everything worked out well. I know there might have been a few hiccups once or twice, but overall I did my best to be as consistent as possible with especially with having your lectures available and your PowerPoints available and your assignments available and all the assignments available for you. So all those things. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. And then if you liked this course, if you want to know any other courses that I'm teaching, feel free to reach out to me and I'll be more than willing to tell you about any future courses. There are 3 that I'll be teaching in the fall. Sociological theory, which is online. So if you're interested in sociology, I'm teaching that course. I'm also teaching this course. Hopefully nobody has to take this course again, because hopefully everyone passes. So you don't have to take this course in the fall. And then I have a race, place, and inequality course in person. A lot of students tend to like that course as well. So look forward to seeing some of you in there. So with that being said, I think that is it. And so if you have any questions about your exam 2, let me know. You have your dates. You also have your opportunity to turn in one missing assignment. And that's not a late assignment, just a missing assignment. Other than that, that is it. And now, if there's another lecture, if you're watching this to the end, then thank you. If you're watching this as a last video, thank you. If you're watching this before another lecture video, you can go to the next one. All right. Have a great day. All right. So, welcome back to class. Today, we are going to talk about, sorry, let me pull this up. Make sure I'm talking about the right thing. So this is 14.4 to 14.5, where we are talking about the sociology of religion. Sociology of religion, that you all pretty much kind of read in that section. And so that's what we're going to discuss today. Okay, right here. So talking about religion, and just like family, which we have discussed in part, we're now talking about different social institutions, right? We talked about the race, class, and gender piece of sociology, and now we're talking about the various social institutions that perpetuate the advancement as well as the disadvantage of people of certain racial groups, class groups, gender groups, sexual identities. And so we've talked about the fact that there are many different social institutions, right? The family is a social institution. The school is a social institution. The housing market or the housing sector is a social institution. These are things that we as sociologists study and assess to measure equality, essentially. Measure equality, measure disadvantage. Um, there are many different examples of social institutions, and the church or the mosque or any person's religious affiliation, that is a social institution, right? Many people think that religion is solely your own personal ideas or philosophies about the world. And while it is, right, while it is, religion has played a big part in shaping the lives of people, probably more so than many other institutions. People's belief in God or a higher power or a higher self or whatever the person calls God. It is very personal, but it is out of the personal that society is created. As a person who studied religion and theology a long time ago, a lot of that stuff I forgot. But some of the things I do remember when I studied theology and the history of the Christian church is once Christianity got politicized, it began to shape policy in Greece and in Rome. It began to shape education in North Africa, right? It began to shape who had access to land. Some of, the Crusades and the wars between the Muslims and the Christians are some of the most horrific and long-standing wars throughout Earth's history. So religion plays a huge part in land acquisition, in policy making, in the creation of wealth. Much of Italy, the Vatican, many of these states and cities are built off of people's dedication to a religious group. And so it is very very important that we look at religion as not only a person's personal belief, but also what religion does to a society and what the institutionalization of a religion or the democratization just kind of meaning how much this religion now is a part of people's everyday life. What does that have to do with how people are able to move, what people are able to do, what people can have access to, right? It is also through religion that we have seen a lot of inequality, right? We've seen a lot of inequality. Some of the first so-called slave ships that went from Europe to West Africa were named after biblical characters. Peter, Jesus. These are the names of the slave ships. Many of these people came doing or participating in the transatlantic slave trade, did this because they believed in, or they believed that this was some type of manifest destiny, some type of a calling from God to participate in these activities, right? To participate in this essential struggle for Black people, right? So religion played a role in that, right? It was also through religion. Religion was a part of the policies that shaped who was enslaved during the early parts of American history and who was not. At one point, an African person could be enslaved, but if they converted to Christianity, then they could not be enslaved anymore. Well, so many were converting to Christianity because Christianity actually started in Southwest Asia and many parts of Africa. I mean, the Coptic Christians were, created the first Christian university. So it wasn't uncommon for African people to understand Christianity because a lot of the Christian stories were very similar to a lot of the ancient African stories of Osiris and Isis and I believe Horus and in many of these myths, or what people would consider myths, and stories were very similar to the stories of Moses and stories of Jesus and God and Mary and all of this. So it wasn't uncommon. So many of the African people did convert to Christianity.
which in turn made them get rid of that law. So Christianity and religion was a part of the politicization of African bodies, Black bodies in early United States history, right? Even if you look at 9/11, right, and what influenced this small group of people to knock down the Twin Towers, right? And this was influenced by religion, right? Partly influenced by religion, which in turn led to an attack, right? Led to degradation, led to deaths, which in turn led to a war that we are still feeling the effects of today, right? So religion absolutely affects society, and obviously war affects economy, recessions and things like that. So religion is very, very important. And this is why we are getting ready to talk about religion as a social institution, because religion shapes society in major ways. So religion is a social institution that involves beliefs and practices. And these beliefs and practices are based on what people see as sacred, right? So religion says that something is sacred versus secular. And it doesn't necessarily mean that everything that is sacred is good or everything that is secular is bad. But what is sacred is generally just means it's set apart, right? So for example, I grew up a part of the Seventh-day Adventist religion. That was the religion that I was a part of growing up. And on that day, Friday night, which was considered the Sabbath, all the way to Saturday night, those hours were the Sabbath, and it meant that those hours were sacred hours, right? It meant those hours were precious hours. And there were certain things that we could do and certain things that we could not do during those hours. Now, does that mean that Tuesday is not a special day? Does that mean that Monday is a bad day or that Sunday is a good day? No. Does it mean that Saturday was a better day than Thursday? Absolutely not. It just means that these hours were set apart as revered hours for people who believed in this to draw closer to God, right? This was a time of inspiration, of reflection, of closeness, of family, of religion, of spiritual uplift, right? So these sacred practices, sacred hours, sacred places and spaces, right? There are some examples of tables or rooms in a certain place that are considered sacred, right? When Muslims pray, many times they pray facing the east. Does that mean the east direction is better than the west direction? No, but that's a sacred direction because when they're facing the east, they're facing Mecca, and Mecca is the central part, right? The central arena for Islamic life in the world. So sacred is just anything that is set apart, right? And so religion deals with ideas that transcend everyday experience. Common sense or sociology can prove or disprove, right? So religion, there are a lot of things in life that we can explain. There are a lot of things that we can do studies on and look and explore and examine. And then sometimes there are just questions that we just cannot answer. You can't study that. One of those questions is, why do bad things happen to good people? There's no amount of sociology, no amount of psychology, no amount of biology, studies, control variables you can do to really come to a conclusion. Those kinds of questions are typically questions related to religion or spirituality, right? What happens to a baby's soul if it dies in childbirth or it dies shortly after it's born? That's based on belief. There's nothing really we can do to kind of measure that. right? Why is it that when wars happen, little kids die? Some people can understand soldiers. If you're fighting for a country, you're fighting to die for your country. But why do kids die? You know, why do children die? Why does a mother die in in childbirth? You know, so these larger questions, no amount of sociology can prove this. These are experiences, but we can't just look at common sense. We can't just look at what we see, observation, which is a key methodology in sociology to determine these things, right? And so this is where religion comes in. This is where people's spirituality comes in. Where do we come from? Why does this exist? Now, sometimes that's religion, and sometimes people go towards the hard sciences, which is why we have Big Bang, the Big Bang Theory versus creationism. Just depends on what you believe in. So because of this, we have, going to the next slide, we have in sociology something called the sociology of religion. Sociology of religion. And this is not to say that sociologists study religion to determine which religious outlook is good or bad or positive or negative. It's not to say that. Sociologists study religion just as a social institution. So one of my first study, the first study that I ever did back in like 2010, 2009, 2010, was I studied the Seventh-day Adventist Church. I did a historical analysis of the Seventh-day Adventist Church to study its effects or how society affected its outlook on race and race relations, right? So I was not studying to try to prove that the church was good or bad or indifferent, but I was studying to say, well, anybody could read this, whether you are a part of this church or not. You can read it and then and decide for yourself if you believe in the beliefs or not. That doesn't matter. What matters is, what is this doing to race relations? How is this affecting people, a particular sector of society? What is happening? What is the relationship between race relations and this particular church? So similar to the way that sociologists study family and race and gender and education or any other social forces, any other identities or institutions, sociologists just study religion. They may study churches, or they may study mosques or synagogues, or people who, or atheists, or people who lean towards more of ancient ideas, natural law, natural ideas. Okay. Sociologists don't pass judgment on any religion. Okay. They're not generally, if you see something that is published in a journal article that has to do with religion, it's not to pass judgment on the religion itself and the beliefs. It's to make an assessment of what that religion is doing for the people in society. So instead, they look at what religions have in common or differ, and how it shapes society as a whole. That is the sociology of religion. That is what sociologists do with religion. And after studying religion and studying spirituality, what sociologists have found is that it has three major functions for humanity. It has three major functions for humanity. The first one is that religion establishes social cohesion. It establishes social cohesion. It unites people. If you notice, people who subscribe to a particular religion oftentimes form a significant and a strong community. They have mothers and fathers and aunties and uncles and very close people in their church or in their mosque or in their synagogue. And they are united under what? Under beliefs. We all believe that this is the right way, or we should read this book, or we should eat these foods, or we should listen to this music, or we all look at marriage this way, or at family this way, or at sex this way, or race this way. So it establishes social cohesion. It brings people together. It unites people under a specific thought. So that's one of the major functions of religion. Bringing people together. Hopefully in a good way, but sometimes it brings people together in a bad way to do bad things. It's like we talked about with 9/11, a specific sector of Islam, not Islam itself, not all of Muslims, but this particular group that was that were extremists participated in the 9/11 attacks. And so we have to understand, but they were united under an idea. So it's not always positive. Ku Klux Klan. The Ku Klux Klan does not represent all Christians, nor do they represent all white Christians. But it is a specific division of many white Christians that participated and started and continued and perpetuated the Ku Klux Klan, which wreaked havoc on U.S. citizens, particularly Black people and Jewish people, mostly Black people, few Jewish people, and some white people. So the unification under religion is not always positive. Sometimes it's negative. It promotes social control. You can control a society through religion. There is an entire, this is the second major function of religion. There's an entire, sometimes there are entire states, nation states, that are ruled under a religion. They're called theocracies. And these theocracies are put in place to help maintain order. Some people's countries' documents, nations' documents are built off of religious beliefs. The United States isn't a theocracy. It doesn't profess to be a theocracy, though religion does play a role and did play a role in many of the early so-called founders. But the basis of US law is not built on Christianity or Islam or any other religion. Maybe inspired, but not built on that. In fact, one of the key points or tenets of US life is everyone has the right to freedom of religion, meaning you can worship wherever you want in the United States. The United States tries not to control people based on religion, based on what is said. But religion can be a form of social control. It can be a form of controlling what people do, where people go, how people live. Sometimes the control is more regulated in this kind of soft way, and other times it's very, very strict. Religion can control what you eat, where you live, who you marry. Lastly, religion provides meaning and purpose. So it explains difficult situations. Talked about that earlier. There are some things about life that we just don't know. If you experience a loss and you're trying to figure out, why is this happening? What am I supposed to learn from this? Many people turn to religion. turn to God or spirituality or higher self to understand what they may not be able to read in books or listen to in podcasts or lectures or get from important people in their lives. So providing meaning and purpose is important and is a major function of religion. It gives people an identity. It tells people what is the meaning of life. That's one of the greater human questions. And it helps to provide answers to that. Now, as we move forward, religion also plays a role in social change, both in positive and negative ways. If we're honest, most religions are very patriarchal. Most religions favor men. Most religions were started or have a strong foundation in a man, whether it be Jesus and Christianity, Abraham and Judaism, Confucius and Confucianism, Siddhartha Gautama and Buddhism, Muhammad and Islam. And so most religions provide more favor to men than to women. So feminist theory explains how religion can reinforce that social inequality. So when we look at the sociology of religion, what some sociologists may do is look at certain religions and religious practices and religious ideas from a feminist theoretical perspective to show, do you realize that you're reinforcing inequality when you say these things or do these things or believe these things? So that is how religion and social change can coincide. Same way with racial groups. We'll talk about this later on in the slide. Liberation theology, or sometimes Black theology, can be done where you take a specific social perspective and you look at religion from that social perspective, and then that then determines or can establish a new kind of or break off of that religion. The AME Church, African Methodist Episcopal Church, was a break off of I'm not, don't give me the line. I think it's the Methodist, but I don't know. But from a Black perspective, using African cultural ideas and thoughts and practices. Religion can also promote social change. One of the greatest examples of that is the Civil Rights Movement and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who was very much influenced by his Christian upbringing and his Christian beliefs when deciding we can use this as a way to help create a different world and advance social change and advance the destabilization of Jim Crow and segregation. So religion can absolutely promote social change. Two ways it was done. One, Protestantism and capitalism. Protestantism was created out of social change. People were being treated unfairly by the Catholic Church. Martin Luther said, let's look at this. Nailed 95 Theses to the door. I think got excommunicated. But it was through this move that the Protestant Reformation and the Protestant movement was created. Now, any church that is not Catholic is considered Protestant within the ecumenical community. That was done through social change, through the mistreatment of people by certain people within the Catholic Church. Capitalism. I think we talk about this later. We talk about this later on. Protestantism and capitalism, we're going to talk about that in the next slide, as well as liberation theology. Talk about that as well. Liberation theology, Black theology, sometimes feminist theology kind of all fall under this liberation theology of people who were marginalized, seeking a certain level of freedom and using religion and theology as a way of making sense and creating a framework for that freedom. So Protestantism and capitalism, number one, social change, religion. Calvinists saw prosperity as a sign of a divine blessing. So these early Calvinists were getting rich, essentially. They were getting rich. They were at the cusp of technology, new ideas, and they was getting money. And they didn't want to feel bad about it. So they created this idea that, well, these blessings are coming from God. God is giving it to us specifically. And so what we're going to do is we're going to amass this great wealth and then use it to spread our beliefs and use it sometimes to help people. But we were blessed with this, almost the first prosperity gospel, if you will. We were blessed with this. God blessed us. He wants us to have it. So let's keep getting it. There must be something special about this. And so it is part of their religion to amass great wealth. It was part of their religion to be on the cusp of technology and to achieve success. It's a part of what we are supposed to do as Calvinists. Right? This also resulted in industrial capitalism, though. This created or was done to make sense of the Industrial Revolution. And what some people began to suggest, sociologists specifically, was to say, you know what is happening in capitalism, and we talked about this earlier on in the semester, but what's happening with capitalism is not actually promoting religion or promoting anything positive about religion. Instead, it is disenchanting religion. This is making religion look bad. This is what led to Weber writing a book called The Protestant Ethics in the Spirit of Capitalism. This is actually harmful. Blending these religious ideas with just amassing wealth and just being rich. Nothing wrong with being rich, nothing wrong with getting money. But when it's done at the expense of others, and there is so much unequal ground on our society, well, now that's a problem. So these certain Protestant ideas begin to mend with economic gain and created this almost theological outlook on capitalism. Right? Talking about social change. And then there's this liberation theology. And liberation theology comes from combining Christian principles with political activism. It comes from taking Christian principles and saying, now listen, we believe that these ideas of everybody being equal under God, Jesus helping the poor, Moses freeing people from bondage, these Christian principles can be applied today. And this is when you have marginalized people, Black people, Latinx people, women, all these different groups saying, we're going to apply this to our lives. Because we believe that social oppression is anti-Christian morality. Christianity does not look for people to be oppressed. It does not look for people to be mistreated or treated unfairly. That is not what Christianity is about. And so this is where you have ideas that create the movement like the civil rights movement, very much religious influence, the Nation of Islam, influenced largely by Islamic principles, right? Many of the early slave revolts, Nat Turner, influenced by religion. He was a preacher. Harriet Tubman, strongly influenced by religion. These people used religious principles for political activism, to support their political activism. This is liberation theology. It also believes that Christians must promote greater social equality. How can you be a Christian and you don't want people to be treated equally? It doesn't make sense. So liberation theology says, if you call yourself a Christian, then you must be on the side of equality. You must be on the side of justice. If anybody's being mistreated, if anything unfair is going on, because the people that are the founders and the foundation of Christianity did these exact same things. So the United States is a country where religion continues to play a very important role in modern society, even though it is not a theocracy. It plays a very important role in modern society. Okay. All right. This next slide, what I want you to do is I want you to watch this YouTube link, Pray the Gay Away. And this talks about sexuality and religion. And I want you to think about sexuality and religion. I want you to think about what this link is telling you. It's very important. It's very interesting. It's not long, but you see the connection between Christianity and ideas around homosexuality, specifically in the South. And I want you to look at this and I want you to think about the things that we've been talking about when it comes to religion and religion as a social institution. And how is religion as a social institution affecting these men? How is it affecting their outlook, their change, their so-called change? What's happening here? So this is a great place to apply many of the things that we are discussing. Okay, so I'll watch that, think through that. Hope you've enjoyed the lecture. Be sure to get any assignments or anything completed. Hope you have a great day, great week, great weekend. See you soon.